Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast for Tuesday. Now on video as well. The smiling face of Fred Zinkie looking right at you. Wait. Smiling face of defending Tout Wars, NL Tout Wars and LABR Mixed Draft League champion Fred Zinkie joining us. I'm Jeff Erickson, and thank you for listening or watching us today. Fred, what's going on? How are you doing?
Not much. We just had a bit of a snowstorm here, as people would guess, up in Canada. We haven't had much snow where I live all winter, but we got about a foot of snow last night. So spent a bunch of time shoveling today. I sent my kids out to shovel the backyard rink today. Now they're skating on it. So
you have a backyard rink?
So I kind of do. I back onto a park, and there is a rink behind me in the park, and we maintain it, myself and my neighbor. If we flood it, we have our homemade Zamboni that we made. We call it the Zam Baby because it's actually built into a baby stroller, and it's got like a bucket. We use hot water. We have like the full squeegee and everything like you'd have in a hose system out of it. So we flood it every couple nights, and the kids shovel it, and they'll play like very Canadian. They'll play like some days they'll play like 3 or 4 hours of pond hockey.
That is just so awesome.
Yeah, battles to the death. Like right now, 100 yards from me, there's just like 6 kids, maybe 8 kids, all about 10 years old, just battling to the death out there on pond hockey. Little pond hockey nets where you can't raise the puck, and yeah, they have a blast.
We got the LABR draft tonight.
Yeah.
Excited about that. You are the defending champ, as reiterated here. But they punished you. You're drafting 15th.
I don't want to call it conspiracy because Steve Gardner is beyond reproach, but
yes, that's true.
I knew it. I knew going into I knew when Steve was getting ready to to set the randomized draft order. I was like, I am not going to get I just felt it. I was like, I am not going to get a good spot this year. I just had a feeling, and sure enough, I am picking dead last. If I was doing a KDS for this, dead last would have been either dead last or close to dead last on my rankings. So I've come around on it. Like I have a bit of a plan tonight. But I wanted to be in the top 8, which is where you are.
8 is kind of a magic number, I feel like. And I am drafting 8th. First of all, I love being in the middle in a snake draft. You know, I love being smack dab in the middle. Don't get stuck on a lot of these long runs. If you're at one of the ends and decides the dreaded closer run happens, you're going to get one of them probably.
Yep.
Yeah, it could start pick immediately after you and finish before you and within 14 picks, but it's not 30. It's not 25. You know, it's much more likely that you're not going to get crushed by that as much. So from that side, but also from the first, looking strictly at the first round, I think there's a drop off after 8. Well, I think there's a clear top 8. Is the way I kind of view it. I mean, there's the obvious big hitters. There's Acuna, there's Tatis, there's Soto, Betts, and then I think those 4 will definitely be gone. I don't think there's any chance any of those get to me.
No chance.
I think there's going to be one of DeGrom, Cole, Trout, or Turner, and I'm going to get one of them, and that's pretty much it. I think you maybe make a case for Bieber or Yelich to get up there, but I'm not going to make that case. I'm going to take one of those 4, and I'm going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, I think it's an easy spot. I'm not a Trout guy this year. I would put Bieber. I have a big 8, and Bieber's in my big 8.
Bieber over Trout, huh?
Yeah, I'm not a Trout guy right now. it's in Roto. Like if we were in a points league, then it'd be great. I get it. Trout's still like probably the best hitter in baseball. I think it's him or Soto. I give the nod to Trout right now. Soto hasn't quite done it for long enough yet, but like I get it. And you know what's neat about Trout is like I can't. So it's interesting. For Yahoo just put out an article on the safest first round picks, and I had to put Trout. I put him in this like in the top 5 safest first round picks. So it's hard for me to say that Trout doesn't belong in that top 8 when I think he's one of the safest. I just think unless the steals come back, then his ceiling is lower. I don't love the idea of leaving the first round without steals or a pitcher. Without one or the other, steals or a pitcher. And I'm not confident that Trout's going to steal, say, more than 10 bases this year. So
yeah, I agree. I don't think I have Trout with enough stolen bases, and yet the floor is just so high.
I know I can't argue with it.
I have him for 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might have put him at like 8 or something, but I can't argue with it. I have Bieber and Cole ranked pretty similarly. So if I'm going to put Cole in my top 8, And really, I have DeGrom ahead of them, but it's like I have DeGrom ahead of them on ceiling. I think DeGrom's floor is the lowest. I think he's the most injury list likely of the three. He's the one who's had a couple little minor elbow issues. He's the one who had the back last year. So anyways, I kind of Bieber in that group and not Trout, but I can't argue with anyone who wants to take Trout. And what I love about the middle, like you said, I also love the middle in round 2, because I think when you get to pick in round 2, there will be pitchers who are fine and there will be hitters who are fine. And there will be hitters who are like sluggers, and they'll probably be like a Bo Bichette or a Mondesi type if you want more speed. Like you can kind of from that middle, those middle spots, I think you're good in the first 2 rounds. I think you're good in the third round too, but I think you're good in the first 2 rounds where I don't think you'll get hemmed in where you're like, oh gosh, I couldn't get a pitcher, or, oh gosh, I don't like the hitters. Now I have 2 pitchers. I think from the middle this year is really good.
Yeah, I'm a little quizzical on the hitters in the second round. Like I like Harper and Machado there.
Yep.
Bichette,
but I don't know if they'll make it to you.
Yeah, well, Bichette's like, I like him. I don't know if I like him in the second round like him.
I know. So I feel like with Bichette, at first I was like, well, we're projecting a lot. So interesting thing on Bichette, if you just so he's played 75 games. So if we just doubled that, it's 32 homers and 16 steals, and he's hit 307. Like,
yeah,
if you could get 32 homers, 16 steals, and him hit 307, and I think on the Blue Jays now, Springer's going to hit leadoff, so Bichette's going to hit second or third, which should give him the ability to score lots of runs and drive plenty in. So at first, it's one of those things that I had to get my head around, like at the beginning, because he's young in the beginning of draft season, like say like November. I was like, oh, come on, Bichette can't be already in the second round. Like, he's only played 75 games, can't be in the second round. The more I look at the numbers and the steal scarcity, like, I'm okay with it. You could also probably do the Mondesi thing if you wanted to.
I don't want to do the Mondesi thing.
Trout Mondesi, that would be a neat, right? Like, you'd have 60 homers and 60 steals from those first 2 guys.
Yeah. I could even see going, like, if I go Turner and the pitchers I like in the second get taken, I can see myself going Turner Bichette too. I think Mondesi scares me. I mean, I don't know if you saw Rob's article on RotoWire about Mondesi this past week, Rob Silver's article about that.
I did,
he makes a pretty compelling case to at least have second thoughts about taking him in the second round. I've never been a huge Mondesi guy. I'll admit my bias there. And there's no way he's coming back in the third. So it's either now or never as far as that goes.
For sure. I would probably not be the Mondesi guy, but I mean, what else is great about your spot is if you're looking pitchers, like just looking at like NFBC ADP for February, like Nola could be there.
Yeah.
Scherzer, Castillo, right? Like there's a lot of like the pitcher options are really good still at that point. Like I said, I think it's a really nice spot. I've always found this LABR group to be a really hitter heavy drafting group.
Sure.
So if I had to guess, those bats that you're not sure about, like Machado and Harper, will definitely not be there. But maybe a pitcher will leak down. Maybe a Giolito or someone will, if you were interested, will leak down a little lower than we thought. Or you have a better chance maybe of getting a Nola at that point than you would getting Nola, say, at an NFBC draft in the middle of March.
Right. I'm going to pull up last year's draft because
I happen to have last year's draft. Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, I don't have it up in front of me yet, but I want to see that. I did do a Draft Champions League with a lot of people in the industry. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but it's similar. And it went a little pitcher heavier than what I expected, which is I was kind of surprised at. But so let's see, where is that LABR draft?
So this group had 9. So we had 4 in the first round last year and 5 in the second round, and only 3 in the third round. So that's where I say this is like you would never see that in a main event draft. Right. Like only 12 pitchers in the first 45 picks. Like you would never.
No, you definitely wouldn't.
See that.
You see 12 in the first 2 rounds.
That's right. So looking at, say, pick 8 last year, 2, 4, 6, you would have had your choice last year at 8 of every pitcher other than Cole. So, I mean, we'll see if it holds this year, but
it's noteworthy that I didn't choose said pitcher there last year at 8 because I also had 8 last year.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your start last year, I think, is fine. Like if the Cardinals COVID thing hadn't been an issue, like Story Flaherty, like that's where I think you can do something similar this year. Like you said, maybe you can get Trey Turner Or maybe you flip it and maybe it becomes like Cole or DeGrom or something and Bichette. I don't know which one of those is more appealing to you. Maybe I have a hunch just from discussing this now that maybe the Trouter Turner, and then the pitcher is maybe
Honestly,
a
I
little more
prefer the
appealing
pitcher. I think my hierarchy would go. My preference would go DeGrom, Cole, Trout, Turner, probably.
Yeah.
Trout's such a safe floor guy. I mean,
yep, totally.
Yeah, he's not going to run. I'll accept that. But you need fewer stolen bases to compete anyhow. So
yeah, I think if you're taking Trout, you just have to have some other plan.
Right.
Like let's say you went Trout and then in the second round you took Nola or Castillo or something like that. Like in the third round you can't take. Well, you can do whatever you want, but like you probably aren't thinking Jose Abreu or JT Realmuto or any of those guys. Like you probably need to get some steals maybe in that in the third round or in the third, fourth, like somewhere in those next couple picks. You probably need to get at least one like 20 steal type guy.
Yeah, I do.
If you're able to start Turner, it just kind of takes the pressure. It does. Takes the pressure off.
It does. It really does. And so there's something to be said for that. I have a suspicion Turner's going to go before me anyhow.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that's usually what works. So last year you started off with Verlander in the first round. And you still beat us. Yeah,
not ideal. The Verlander thing couldn't have gone much worse. But then, the Tatis pick basically like completely. I can't say it totally made up for Verlander because Tatis wasn't worth two for like a first and a second. But that was.
It was a very good pick.
After Verlander, I had a lot of bad picks, but in a row, I had Tatis, which was good, Realmuto, which was good, Bogarts, which was good, Hader was good, Luis Robert was good. Like those next five were all Jeff McNeil, not so much. No. Trey Mancini, not at all. Like, and then Lance Lynn was good, and Yasiel Puig wasn't, and Tommy Edman wasn't, and Hansel Robles wasn't, and Miles Michaelis wasn't. But I had that nice stretch.
You overcame a lot.
Yeah, totally. But I did have that nice stretch for about 5 picks in a row starting in round 2 of all guys. Those guys are all of those guys are going other than Hader. Like all those guys are going by the end of the third round this year, and Hader is still the first or second closer off the board. So those 5 picks I think kind of carried me, and then just the odd like getting Swanson late and Bundy late, and then just filling in around them.
Right. That's right.
But you're right. When you look at my draft last year, it was not near as impressive as I thought it was going to be when I opened the file.
All right, so by the time people listen to this, you're going to be picking anyhow. So what are you going to do at the turn?
So I think what's happened, and I don't know if this is just too wishy-washy of an answer, but when you pick 15 this year, like, so I kind of have, so I ranked my top 16, and I think I'll just end up taking whatever. I think I won't have any choice. I have a big 16.
Okay.
They're basically the big 16. So I'm looking. So if I look at the NFBC ADP, it goes to pick 17, which is Lindor. So Darvish is not in it. He's pick 16 in the NFBC ADP. So he's out of it.
Really?
Think that I'm not. I think there's enough injury risk with Darvish. No, I don't have Darvish ranked low. When I picked 15th and 16th, I was like, okay, I'll rank 16 players. Right? Okay. Like I don't need to go to 17. So Darvish was the guy who fell out. I put Lindor in ahead of Darvish. So I think I won't have any choice. Like I think like you would assume that everyone who goes in the top 11 or 12 will be gone by the time I pick at 15. So say from 12 down, there's Freeman, Story, Bauer, Bellinger, Lindor. I'll take whatever 2 are left.
Okay. So is there one you're hoping to get to you?
No, not really. I think the hitters are all fine. I think Bauer's the interesting one because he's the one pitcher out of the guys I just mentioned, and it's do I want a pitcher in the first 2 rounds when I don't pick again until 45th? And I think probably yes. I think I would probably prefer to take Bauer and a hitter just for balance early when I have to wait so long to pick again. Mm-hmm. But if Bauer's gone and I had to take 2 of those hitters, I would be okay with it. And then I'll just know that I have to get 1 or 2 pitchers on that round 3-4 turn. I'll be honest, Bauer scares me. At the same time, I don't worry about his innings. Like he's just never been injured. Like he has 1 IL stint in his career, and it was like a fractured fibula or whatever. Like it wasn't an arm injury. And nobody ever pitches that bad for the Dodgers. Really. Like, can
Right.
you remember a guy on the Dodgers in the last few years who was supposed to be good being bad? Like, Buehler doesn't pitch enough, and Kershaw doesn't pitch enough.
I mean, you have to dig all the way down to Stripling last year.
Yeah, like
and,
if you
in a
want to go
COVID
down,
season.
yeah, and like Stripling just isn't great, like a really good pitcher. And Kenta Maeda had years where his ERA was about 4, which like, but we don't see a lot of busts in that Dodgers staff. We see guys who are busts because of innings, but not busts because of their ratios. So if Bauer can throw innings, and he's just on the Dodgers, I just feel like he'll get his share of wins, he'll get his share of strikeouts, and the ratios will be fine. But until Bauer signed with the Dodgers, I did not like him at this point in the draft.
Gotcha.
So that still bugs me a little bit. Yeah.
So if you get shut out on the, and I know we're getting to the point where you might have to reveal stuff that you don't want to reveal, so you can decline the answer. But say you get shut out on the 1-2 turn on pitchers, and you have to start off with, say, Freeman Lindor. I mean, God forbid.
I could have bigger problems. Yeah.
Does that mean you take more pitchers in the first, say, would you take 3 or 4 starting pitchers in the first 10 rounds or something of that nature to make up for the lack of ace?
So probably, or I would invest maybe a little more in closers than I normally would to try to get a little more strikeouts, a little better ratios for my closers than the like waiting for Alex Colomé and his 45 strikeouts he's going to get you this year or something. People always say saves are saves. Well, they're not. Like Josh Hader's saves comes with 110 strikeouts, right? And Alex Colomé's come with 45. So Josh Hader's come with a .95 whip, and I guess Alex Colomé's came with that last year too. But anyways, different approach for me because it's a trading league. So we get very NFBC centric, I think, like all of us when we talk, because and I play in lots of those leagues too. But because it's a trading league, if I get shut out on pitchers, I may just stay shut out on pitchers, and just like if it comes to me on the 3-4 turn, I don't like any of the pitchers that are left, I may just take 2 more hitters and just keep rolling. And like, I'm not going to not draft any pitchers, but if I'm weak on pitchers by May, you know what I mean? Like someone's going to be flush with pitchers and I can probably come in. So for example, I think Tim McLeod in our league last year drafted Darvish and Bieber. Okay, like by 1 month into the season, those were looking like really great. Well, if I get shut out on pitchers, maybe if I started Freeman Lindor, maybe I have to just trade one of them. Maybe my third guy's Anthony Rendon or something like that.
Right.
Maybe I just go to the guy who's kicking our butts in pitching at the end of April, and I'm just like, hey, I need one of those couple aces you have, and I'll give you one of these hitters. So different approach, I think, because it's a trading league.
Yeah, and you like to trade. You're good at it, and you're prolific, and so.
I've traded less recently, but like if I have to do that, I would be much more panicked if this was like an NFBC, especially if it was a main event or something.
Right.
If I got shut out of pitchers, that 3-4 turn, I think I'd have to force it and take like a Lance Lynn or someone like that a little early, and just cross my fingers that that he performed at or above expectations.
Sounds like a good plan. All right. Yeah. We'll table any more labor talk because we're going to review our draft next week, obviously. And we have 2 teams to preview plus a little bit of news. So let's jump into that real quick. CJ Cron goes to the Rockies. It's a minor league deal, but everyone expects him to make the team. Your reaction to this signing?
Well, people are going to go bananas. I think I tweeted out something said like, oh boy, people are going to be excited about this. Like, people are going to go bananas over this. Like, CJ Cron, I feel like, is a little bit of a fantasy darling. I feel like fantasy analysts kind of like him already. Mm-hmm. And like, we've always, like, he's done just enough to keep the fuel going. He had the 30 homer season 2 years ago, 25 in 2019, or I guess 3 years ago now, 25 in 2019. Last year's basically hurt the whole time. Like this is a guy who can hit 30 home runs if he's the Rockies' first baseman. So, people are going to be really excited about this. I'm not quite as excited about it as I would be if the Rockies were actually really good. This isn't a good Rockies lineup.
It's the worst lineup I've seen them have in a really long time. Maybe ever. Maybe back to the expansion teams.
Yeah, I can't remember the Rockies having a lineup this depressing. So, and Cron doesn't really change that. Like, his career OPS is 776. It'd be higher if he played at Coors. But I moved Cron up my list, but I bet some other people moved him up a lot more than I did.
I think.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm actually got to do my update on Cron still. I'm trying to figure that out, and part of it is figuring out the DH. I'm making a big switch this week. they don't get a deal in the next 48 hours, I'm switching a lot of players' projections because of that in the NL. And a couple AL DHs too, by the way, who will have to sit out when they play interleague play because they won't have that. Like Nelson Cruz is going to lose a few at-bats. JD Martinez probably misses some. A few other DHs. And Cron's one of those guys that's would be affected by that because I know he plays first base, but he's also recovering from a major knee injury or shin injury and probably could use a day off from playing the field. So he could get hurt by that. It hurts Josh Fuentes a little bit, and McMahon maybe a little bit too. But
Fuentes went right off my radar as far as mixed leagues go. I just think Cron just push. There's just not enough of the upside there with Fuentes because of his power skills. But I'm going to keep my projection for Cron at 30 home runs or less. I'm just going to assume that in every draft I'm in, someone's going to, and they could be right. Excuse me, someone's going to see the potential for him to hit 35 home runs because it's certainly there now.
Right. The other thing I do with Cron too is I'm going to improve his batting average because that's the thing that Todd Zola makes this point all the time. Coors Field helps batting average more than it does homers. It helps homers, but it helps batting average even more. So that's the one thing. I have him at 244. He's going to go up. Probably go 254, 260, somewhere in that range. Maybe even higher. We'll see. I have to debate that. And that's going to bump him up in terms of my rank. Like right now, his projections-based ranking is like 294. That's going to go. It's going to go up. He'll go higher than that.
Yeah, and then it's going to come down to playing time. Like his career high in at bats is 501.
Right.
He played 140 games that year with the Rays. He had 125 one year. Like if you're going to project him for 460 at bats, you're not going to get him. Yeah. And that's probably where I'm going to be, 460, 480. And then someone will have him. Like if he played every day, someone will have him at 520. And then they'll have the 33 homers, 32 homers, and they can have them. And maybe they'll be right. We'll see. But like if I had to guess, let's see what his February. I'll just quick search his February ADP in NFBC leagues is.
Last 3 weeks, Cron's at 328.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So 328 is. I'm gonna say now he's gonna go. What do you think tonight? I'm gonna say way earlier than that, like 250, 225. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of 228. Just saying that. Yeah. Take off 100.
Yeah, which means I went from being ahead of his ADP to falling behind it, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't, like I said, I can't argue with someone who wants to take him there. It probably just won't be me. I'll just wait a lot longer and take someone probably who's not on the Rockies.
Kevin Pillar signs with the Mets, who all of a sudden now have extra center fielders as opposed to being short center fielders. Now he's in a 1-year deal with them, $5 million. That's, this is what smart organizations do. They build up redundancies. They have depth. When guys get hurt, they can be ready to go. I don't think this means they trade Brandon Nimmo or anything else. I think it just means I think they wanted him because they want him. It does put a squeeze though on the playing time. It's one of those. I think it's good for the Mets, bad for fantasy signings.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and I think that's in essence a 2-year deal. I think the second year is a player option,
right?
And Pillar, at his age and career, will probably just, and in this market, unless things radically change, I think he'll probably just take the player option. And I think it works out. He can get about $10 million over 2 years. I actually was talking to a friend about Pillar the other day, and he's only made $12 million in his career. So. That contract's that's a game changer for him. It almost doubles his career earnings. I would be shocked if he doesn't stay there for 2 years. And they have to know that. So they're committing to him for 2 years. He's not a great offensive player. He's
pretty good last year though.
Not bad for sure. It's interesting. They're so deep now. If there's no DH, they have Conforto, they have Dominic Smith, they have Nimmo, they have Pillar, they have Almora. Jeff McNeil could go in the outfield sometimes. JD Davis could go in the outfield, although no one would want him to really sometimes. They have become really deep. And like you said, this is a bad signing for fantasy because I think it kind of takes Pillar mostly out of the mixed league discussion. It probably takes Nimmo out of the mixed league discussion. And I think it causes small changes to VR, to Dominic Smith, to JD Davis, because now McNeil probably needs to play. Well, I guess McNeil can play second. It just causes, I think, little drops all over the place, but a big drop for Nimmo.
I think JD Davis gets hurt bigly by this. Actually. Yeah. I actually buy the VR signing. Really, I mean, the more I already downgraded VR, but I think I need to downgrade Davis too, because there'll be times when VR plays second, McNeil third, and because as a third baseman, Davis is a good DH also. He's just not a good defender, and I think that's going to hurt him a lot. So that's a guy I think I need to downgrade.
Yeah, like Lindor can make up for some of it, but if their typical lineup is McNeil at second and JD Davis at third, like that is not good. And imagine if it has Dom Smith in the outfield too, like.
And you got to get Dom Smith's bat in there somehow. I think you got to get Nimmo's bat though. I'm less worried about Nimmo than you are. I mean, that on base plays. It's such a good ability to get on base.
Sure. So, but if Nimmo's playing, like, where does Pillar play? Like,
he doesn't play that much. Nimmo plays left field and Pillar plays center. Yeah. That's the idea of it, right?
And then Dom Smith's out of the lineup that day.
Yeah, this is why the Mets need a DH.
Pete Alonso get a day off once in a while, maybe, and Dom
probably
Smith
should.
plays a little first.
I mean, he as a first baseman, he's not that good defensively already.
No.
You could see him losing some late innings there, possibly. Mm-hmm. It is a squeeze. Dom Smith does get hurt by this too. I mean, they really need a DH. The Dodgers, the Mets, the Padres all really need a DH.
Totally. And I know that like you said, like good organizations, like we're talking about this from like a first week in April perspective.
Right.
And we both know that like Conforto could go down with an injury and all of a sudden playing time opens way up, or Alonso could go down with an injury. Dominic Smith's your first baseman and playing time. At most points in the year, one of the Mets we just named will be on the IL.
Right. Probably two.
Yeah. So, I mean, this will all work itself out. But when we make projections, we have to account for the fact that, that full-time playing time is not there right now for JD Davis. And it's not there right now for Dominic Smith. And,
Plus, won't anybody think about poor Luis Guillorme? I mean,
he is picking up one start every 2 weeks right now.
Pretty much.
with that roster. But good for him. He's still getting paid. So
one more news and note item before we start hitting our team previews. Shohei Ohtani. He is going to be a two-way player for sure. That was just announced today. I think this was the expectation. And I saw we had a player note say, this is good to see and all that. I think it's bad to see. As selfishly, I mean, it's good for him. It's good for baseball again, but from a fantasy perspective, I don't like seeing this. I want him to be a DH only, darn it. I want him to play every day.
So 100%. I am absolutely now not interested in Ohtani at all.
Unless you have daily moves where you can use them in both spots. Like I have that in an auto new league, which we're going to mention in a second, but in that, I can make my switch every day. Is he starting as a pitcher? Okay, I'll use him. If he's starting at DH, great, I'll use him. But he's never going to play the field. Also, by the way, Fred, when he's a pitcher, they're not going to use him as an outfielder. That's another little sneaky thing there. Whereas if he gave up pitching for a year, he might play the outfield and gain eligibility. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't like it for fantasy at all. Like you said, like it is cool for Ohtani, the player, and trying to build a really unique career. It's an interesting thing for baseball if he can pull it off. I basically have no interest in him in fantasy now. If they said he wasn't pitching this year, I would project plenty of plate appearances as a batter, and I would have him decently high on my list as a batter. Now I'm not interested in him as a pitcher. I think the injury risk is way too high, and the pitcher injury risk now can influence the batter, right? Like he has an injury and now he's not hitting for a while they get the injury to calm down, and then at some point he's going to be able to hit while he's ramping back up. Like, forget it. I don't have room in my fantasy life for dealing with all those things. But all this being said, I've never been interested in Ohtani in fantasy since he came over. When he first came over and everyone was hyped, I was like, this whole thing's just too complex. Just give me a really good hitter or give me a really good pitcher.
So in Tout Wars, we do the two Ohtanis. You draft either the hitter or you draft the pitcher. And I'll tell you that it's easier to get a justifiable price for him. Because, he's going to get 350 plate appearances. What's that worth to you as a utility player? There's a value on that. Now, you may not get as many as you think. That's been part of the problem in the past. But, I'm interested in him as a hitter this year, but only at that right size price. In the NFBC, his ADP in the last 3 weeks is 246. No, I can't do it. Won't do it.
No chance. No. I may take him off for mixed leagues. I may take him. I'm not in NAL only. I may just take him off my list just because I know there's no chance that there'll be a point where he's the highest guy on my list.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking Ottoneu. Well, Ottoneu happens to be our advertiser this week. So quick heads up. Ottoneu Fantasy Baseball is the next level fantasy baseball challenge you've been looking for. Experience a year-round dynasty competition with deep rosters. Accumulate prospects to lead your team in the future or to move for a superstar at the trade deadline. Keep your baseball mind engaged in the offseason with trades and arbitration. Learn more about why everyone who plays Ottoneu becomes addicted at Ottoneu Baseball. OTTONEU baseball.com. Ottoneu, better fantasy baseball.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.